I'm very pleased to be here and to support you on this extremely important day. It's an important day not just for the Baloch people, but it is an important day for what you call the international community. Because what is happening in the world today is a historical unraveling of that what imperial states have created 50, 60, 70 years ago. You see it everywhere. You see it in Africa, you see it in the Middle East, with the Kurds, with the Arab people. You see it in South Asia. You see it, of course, in Pakistan, India, and so on. And Pakistan has a very, very sinister role in terms of the British and the division of this area and the continuing role of complicity they play by supporting the Pakistani regime indirectly and directly. And I cannot say what is the best way to approach the international community today, except to make a special call on the Baloch people and all the peoples in the area to unite is a very important point. And the second point is to rely entirely on your own strength. This is a very important point. And another important point is to rely on those people internationally who are fighting a similar struggle, like you do. I'm absolutely convinced that what they are creating as an international community in terms of their own corporations, their economic blocs, and so on, you as a community have to create yourself in your own part of the world together with all these freedom-struggling peoples. It is very interesting for me to see that, for example, recently you had these blocs of the Russians, Chinese, and so on. Now, we might not all agree with these governments, but frankly, I can see the point, because they have been kept in a role which is very seriously undermining their own development, their own strength. And I think in that sense we would have to support Russia and China and these countries, because they are the developing countries, even if we disagree with that. But what is extremely sinister is that Britain keeps talking about the whole world about democracy and about human rights, yet it is the biggest violator of this and the biggest supporter of oppressive regimes, and is playing their own way in terms of continuing to divide the communities in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and elsewhere in the region. I would not rely one day on the British government. If you rely on anybody, then please turn to the working people here in Britain. Turn to those, to the trade unions. Turn to those people who are now in struggle here. You know, because the British people are in a crisis. The British people face problems. Education, health service, everything, which will affect you. If you carry your message to those people in struggle, they will understand. And they will give you their support. So, as I said, try to talk to MPs, okay, loads. But just remember this, what I just said. I think this government has exposed itself in the role it played since the Iraq War. And you know very well that Tony Blair and members of the government who are now in the government should be in front of the War Crimes Tribunal. And I say this loud, and anybody can hear that, and I say this in Parliament. I have an interest, a great concern on these issues. I'm an Austrian. I'm part of 3 nations. I'm a mixture of an Italian, a German, and a Czech. And I grew up in Austria, a multiracial country. My interest therefore, in these kind of ethnic struggles, where it's a question of language, of human rights, etc., is very important for Europeans, that's my point here. For people like myself. The whole issue, for example, that we are now living in a multi-racial world is very important for us to understand in Europe. While we are struggling, and while you are struggling for an independent Balochistan, yes, you should have an independent Balochistan. But remember also that the issue about nation states has created the problems that we have today, which were artificially formed in the Middle East. So it's a very important question to relate to all the communities in the region. So I do not want to take your time, but 1 or 2 observations. When I'm talking about the strengths of your struggle and relying on the strengths of your struggle, I noticed something very good. That, number 1, the young people are part of the struggle. And more so in your country. I have noticed that they are suddenly arresting very young people. Okay, they do very bad things to them. But it shows me that the youth is involved in the struggle. And the more they attack the youth, the more they will fight back. So we have to strengthen this part of the struggle. And I hope that the leadership in Balochistan, all leaders, will support the youth. Secondly, I noticed that the women are organizing. Now these are extremely important things in my observation, because in other struggles, like the Kurdish movement, the Tamil movement, other movements, it is the women who are on the forefront of the struggle. So it's a very important question that the women have taken this up and they are now involved in the struggle. So I salute on this day specifically the women in Balochistan and also the youth in Balochistan. So long live Balochistan in all time.